Okay, so adding to our vocabulary. Someone tell me in your own words, what is a decimal? What's a decimal? Yeah. Tell me what you think a decimal is. I know, we all want to say the word, it's a dot, right? What is a decimal?
It's a point value separating ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands.
You are so close. So close, I'm going to change one part of it, okay? So a decimal is a point separating value greater than one whole and less than one whole. That should actually be greater than or equal to one whole and less than less than one whole. So again, decimal, a point separating value greater than or equal to one whole and less than one whole. To me, the best example of decimals is money. Okay, so if we have one whole dollar, that's a whole number, right? Mm-hmm. If you have change, if you have, let's say, 45 cents, is that less than one whole?
Yes.
Yes, it is. So all of that is going to be to the right of your decimal point, where your dollar would be to the left. So it's separating whole values and partial values. A decimal is the same thing as a... What's something else that shows part of something?
A comma?
No.
A fraction.
You got it, a fraction. Okay, so a decimal is the same thing as a fraction. It shows a portion. All right, what about place value? What's our definition, Wyatt?
That every number goes in.
Okay, I agree with you. Like 78%. Okay, we've got to add one more thing to it.
50%.
It is, absolutely. Okay, so place value is going to be the value. That's the only word you left out, was the value of a digit. Do you know what I mean when I say digit?
Yes.
So if you have the number, well, if you have the number 312, your digits are 3, 1, and 2. Okay? So they can make up a whole number, or they can be the whole number themselves. So the value of a digit, based on its location, like Wyatt said, in a number. So again, the value of a digit based on its location in a number. If we have the digit 3 and it's in the ones place, what's its value? 3. But if it's in the tens place, what's its value?
30.
30. If it's in the hundreds, it becomes 300. So the same digit, but based on the place it's located, its value changes drastically. Okay? So those are our 2 new vocab words. Everybody got those so far?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to turn, the vocab will not be on your quiz Friday. It will be on our unit test, which we'll get to in at least another week. So yeah, we got a little while. Let's turn and look at our place value chart. I'm going to flip it this way and zoom out just a little bit so we can see the whole thing. Our number system is based on what we call a base 10 number system. I jokingly like to say that that's because we have 10 fingers and 10 toes and we can count on 10 fingers and 10 toes. But it's not. It's because everything works in powers of 10. So what is this first place to the left of my decimal? What is it? The ones. So here's our ones place. And what happens every time we increase our place value, we're multiplying by 10. Because again, we have a base 10 number system. So moving from our ones place, we multiply by 10 and we end up in our tens place. Multiply by 10 and end up in our hundreds. Do you see how each time we are increasing by a power of 10? So what comes next?
Thousands.
Thousands? Not quite.
10,000.
10,000s. That's all right. Now, the pattern will repeat itself, okay? We'll go hundred thousands, then we'll go to millions, then 10 million, 100 million. Now, again, you're increasing each time by multiplying by a power of 10. So, if I wanted to go from the thousands place to the hundreds, what am I doing? Dividing by 10. Okay, so why do I not have a once place? Because think about it. If my decimal, if we think of that as a mirror, why don't I have a once place?
Because the 1 is already in the whole number.
Okay, I agree. But if this is like a mirror, why would this first place not over here be the once place?
Because, well, 1 is just in the middle of the mirror, so you don't have to repeat that because then there'd have to be something else in between the two numbers.
Okay, but also look at this. Remember what we just said was happening with our pattern?
Yes.
Remember we're dividing by 10 every time? What if I take one, let's say chocolate bar, and divide it by 10? How many pieces do I have? 10ths. So now this whole this one piece, I've now broken into tenths. So I don't have once. If I divide by 10, I'm going to end up with tenths. Yes, and super important, it is not your tens place, it is your tenths place. Yes?
Is it because just dividing something by 1, it would just be the...
Absolutely. And because we're dividing by 10, and if I divide something by 10, I will not have 1, I will have 10. If I'm dividing 10 by 1, I will have 10 pieces. 1 by 10, sorry. If I'm dividing 1 by 10, I will have 10 pieces. Alright? What if I divide my tenths? What do I get? Hundredths. And again, guys, these THs, that's super important. That shows it is a decimal and not a whole number. What's after hundreds?
Thousands.
Thousands. Yes, and then 10,000s, and then we'll stop there. So for our purposes right now, we know the pattern repeats itself, but we're going to stop on the 10,000s in both directions. 10,000s and 10,000s. Another thing super important about our place value chart is where our decimal is. What word does our decimal represent? And. So if I have the number 1004, I'm not going to read that number as 1004 because and only means that there's a decimal point. So it's not 1004, it's 1004. The only time I want you to say the and word is when you see a decimal point. Because now we're talking about we have a whole number and a part of something. Alright? So save the and for the decimal point. But it's funny, if you start listening to people, you'll notice it's misused an awful lot. 127. Nope. It's 127. Yes?
So, do we use and for the tens?
Yes, for when you have a decimal and you have, let's say, okay, I'm going to flip it. Everybody good so far? Okay, I'm going to flip it and let's look at this. So when I read this number, it will be 3 and then I would read my decimal. And the way you read a decimal number, it will catch you a little rhyme. First you say the name as if there were no dot. Okay? So that's what? 25. Then you say the name of the last place value spot. Well, the last place value spot it's in is hundredths. So we would read this as 3 and 25 hundredths. Okay? So you read the whole number as if there's no decimal point. And we use the word dot just because it rhymes. So if we were looking at this one, what's the whole number without a decimal point?
1068.
You got it, 1068. And then we're going to say the last name of the...
10,000.
You got it. So this whole number would sound like 145 and 1,068 10,000s. Okay? What about the last one? What you got, Cassidy?
24.
You got it. 24 and 79 thousandths. Awesome. Questions? Yeah.
How do you know
When to use the? Oh, you'll understand. It'll be given to you. Yeah. Or when we get to division, we'll be adding them to it. So yeah, it'll be clear. Yes. Question.
What happens if, like, you have 0 in the tens, then you have 2 other numbers that are like 44? Would it just be like 44 thousands?
No. If you have a 0 here, just like this, you have a 0 here, and then you still have 2 digits here, you go all the way to the end. And think about this. If I had, let's just say let's look here. So I have 25 here. That's 25 hundredths. Okay? If I had, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. No, let's try this one. Here we go. All right, so let's say I have 0.07. That's 7 hundredths. Okay? That's like 7 cents. That's 7 pennies. 7 pennies out of 100. Okay? If that 7 were right here and the 0 right here, what would that be?
7 dimes.
7 dimes. That would be 70 cents. So there's a big difference in where that's placed, and you want to make sure you go all the way to the last spot, and that'll be its last name. Okay? All right, let's talk about adding and subtracting. There is one major rule. What is the one major rule we must do when adding and subtracting decimals? What is it?
Always put the decimal behind the number.
Okay, I like that rule, yes. There's always a decimal behind a whole number, but what else?
Keep the decimals on one.
You got it. We've got to line them up. Guys, if your decimals are not lined up, there's no way your answer will be correct. And this is only on addition and subtraction, okay? So today we're just talking addition and subtraction. So let's look at our first number. We have 9 and 55 hundredths plus 18 and 9 tenths. So we have 9 and 55 hundredths plus, I'm going to go ahead and line my decimals up. I'm going to go ahead and do the one for my answer too. Okay? Where is the 9 right here going to go? Under the first 5, because it's immediately behind my decimal point. Then I can fill in 18 up here. What else can I do?
Add a 0. You put a 0 behind the 9.
You got it. Okay? So I'm going to put a 0 back here. Does that change the value of this number? No. It does not. Guys, this is the same thing. 9 tenths is the same thing as 90 hundredths. If we wrote those as fractions, we could simplify 90 hundredths to 9 tenths. Okay? If you really want to, I could come and put a 0 up here. I can add as many zeros before a whole number and after a decimal, and it does not change the value.
If you add a 0 before the number behind the decimal,
then it does change it. Absolutely. You can't change what's in the middle. You can't change where they're stuck together, but you can add them onto the end and in the very front. All right, 0 plus 5. 5 plus 9. Carry our 1. That gives us 18 and 2. So we have 28 and 45 hundredths. I should be able to come and draw a straight line and highlight my decimals. They should be lined up exactly like that. If you can't connect the dots straight down the line, then go back and double check it. All addition problems. All addition and subtraction. You should be able to connect your dots straight up and down. All right, let's try the next one. We have 93 and 5 tenths minus, I'm going to go ahead and put my decimal points. Okay, this time I have 79 and 17 hundredths. Can I take anything out of the air? Can I subtract from the air?
No.
No, so what have I got to put there?
a 0.
I've got to put a 0. Remember, he's our placeholder. So now, can I subtract 7 from 10? Ooh, from 0. So, I know, I just gave you the answer. So 0 is going to become a
10 and the 5 is going to become a 4.
4. Okay, so let's try this. 10 minus 7?
3.
4 minus 1?
3.
Okay, can I subtract 9 from 3?
No.
So that becomes 13. 9 becomes 8. So that would give us, what, 14? Okay. And again, I should be able to go straight down, connect the dots. There are your decimals. All right, let's do one more. Now, back to, I forgot who said it at the very beginning when we first started. What is that first number on number 3? It's a whole number. So, do I have a decimal?
No, but you can make
Wait. Let's change our thinking. Do I have a decimal?
Yeah.
I do. Where is my decimal, Alyssa? You got it. Guys, even if you don't see it, he's invisible. It is always there. Always think of like, okay, when you're numbering your paper and you put 1 period, 2 period, those are all whole numbers, okay? There is always a decimal point at the end of every whole number. Even if you don't see it, it's there. So if I look at this, how many places do I have over here that I'm going to have to subtract from? 2. So how many zeros do I need to tack on?
2.
Okay. So right now I've got 29. I have to put my decimal. Now has that changed the value of 29?
No.
Has this? No. That's still 29. All right. Minus 15 and 42 hundredths. We got to borrow, and this guy's got to go all the way down the street.
8 and 9.
Yep, and then he did all the work, so he gets to keep everything. So 10 minus 2 is 8. Now minus 4?
5.
Got to bring my decimal down. 8 minus 5? And 2 minus 1. Okay, and again. And you don't have to highlight your decimal points on this. I do it right now just to kind of make a point to you that you should be looking for that every time you work a problem. Make sure those decimal points are lined up. All right, any questions so far? Okay, we do have some practice. I'm going to give that to you in just a second. Tomorrow we will do multiplying decimals. Wednesday we will continue multiplying decimals. Thursday we're going to mix them all together. And Friday you have a quiz. Your quiz is not 100 points. It is only 50 points.
What is on it?
It's on adding, subtracting, and multiplying.